here's the first question that I found, one of the most popular. Does God truly love everyone? And if he does, why? Which I thought was a fascinating question to
Sure.
be one of the top ones, because the first thing I thought was, if someone asks that, then they must have evidence, or at least think there's evidence that it's not true.
Okay.
Because if they said, really, does God love everyone? And I thought that was very sad. Because I
Sure.
thought if someone's having to go to Google to find that out, there must be some thought in their brain that maybe that's not true.
Or they think it might be true and they don't like it.
Maybe.
Maybe true.
There are
That's
people
true.
that
Hadn't thought about that, but
there
you're
are
right.
people that they have heard God loves everybody and they're like,
But
No
what
one to-
about?
I don't know how he likes them.
Yeah.
Wow.
True.
Hadn't thought about it from that angle, but
Well, I hadn't thought about it from your viewpoint. And I'll say a thought that I had of while you were talking about that it's going to be really hard, I think, for everybody to get this if you haven't studied a lot of ancient history or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact that anybody asked that question shows how deeply our culture is influenced by Jesus, even
Right.
if you don't know it's influenced by
True.
Jesus, because there aren't other gods that taught by anybody else that anybody ever thought before Jesus that God loved everybody.
that's
Right.
true. Yeah.
Everybody else, there was a tribal god, or there was a god that was over a land or a people, or a god who did, if you did the right, I mean, in most cultures, gods played with people and they toyed with people. They didn't love people.
Right.
They used people.
Right.
Yes.
And certainly not everyone. Not
No,
all.
not everybody.
Not every person from
Only the
anywhere.
good people, only the best people,
Right.
only the
Yeah.
people that would.
And only their people in
Yeah.
their tribe and their country or their whatever. And so, yeah. So the answer to that is yes, God loves everyone.
Yes.
Absolutely.
As followers of Jesus,
Yes.
we definitely believe that, and he's our
Yeah.
example of that, because there aren't any people that Jesus didn't demonstrate his love for, and then we're
And he would even go
explicitly
further.
tells-
I mean,
go
he
ahead.
went even further to say that the people, because like you said, the tribal gods, and there were certain people that God was happy with and loved, and others that didn't. And then Jesus not only expanded that, he went further. He says the people that are your enemies that you would naturally hate. Now that extends to them as well.
Sure.
yeah.
Uh,
And he used that then as an example. If you want to be like God, he
Right.
said for those in the Sermon on the Mount, he said, the evidence that you're like God is not even that you love people who are like you,
Yeah.
or love people that love you back, or love people that you have a little problem with, but you're going to make up with them some point. He said, when you can love an enemy,
Yeah.
he said, then you're being like your Father in heaven, because he makes the rain to shine. I mean, the rain to fall on the just and the unjust, which when you're trying to raise crops is really important.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
and
mean,
most of the gods at that time were some kind of fertility god that was designed for
Yes.
that he would send rain, he would send that. And so the fact that God was a God who blessed everybody, so being that his loving nature.
And so their answer to their question, why, is because at his core, that's who God is.
And that's what John revealed to us.
Yeah.
God is love. And that's the first time that had ever been spoken as well.
Right.
That not only does not that God just does love people,
Right.
he is in his nature, that is who he is.
Well, and it is his central characteristic, and so every other characteristic we know about God, God's power, God's justice, God's whatever holiness, it is all an attribute of his loving nature.
Right.
It is
That's
it
right.
is it is consumed by those aren't things that he has to balance.
Yeah.
He is not balancing his justice and his holiness with his love. They are consumed by his love.
Yeah, people often get confused and think, God, it says God gets angry, but God's loving. Well, if you love something, anything that does danger causes problems for the thing you love,
Yeah.
it makes you angry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I love my children. Anything that would cause damage to them, I would not be happy about.
Which is why when Jesus came on the scene and said, you love God not by just loving God, you love God by loving people.
Right.
And I've always, used that analogy of, what you do to my children
Right.
reflects directly on what you think about me. And that's always been the case.
That's right.
And it's the way God sees it. So we love God by loving the ones next to us. That's how we show it. So,
I think that answers that question.
I think it
God
does.
loves everyone because God is love.
There you go.